Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, or in my very first book haul of the year actually. I wanted to do this video in the spring but then ended up accumulating books and kept putting off this video, but now feels like a great time to post. I have like 10 books here, 10, 11 or something like that, so let's just get into it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Noah. I'm a bookish and lifestyle vlogger, born and raised and still based in New York City, so if that sounds like of any interest to you, I hope that you stick around until the end and subscribe if you so please. I have a coffee, it's hot. I also live on a busy street, so apologies if it gets loud. These books aren't in any kind of order. I haven't really categorized them or anything. We're just gonna go through them. I do have 2 book of the month books with me since I wanted to do this in the spring. I can't remember if I got a book of the month book in April or I skipped it. Otherwise it just was not memorable. I couldn't find it on my shelf. I did find my March book, but I feel like that's going back too far. This is going to be my May book for 2024. Middle Tide by Sarah Crouch. It's a debut novel by a professional marathon runner and Olympic runner, if I'm not mistaken. But it seemed up my alley because it's like mystery, crime fiction. All of these books I have not yet read either, so they're new to my TBR, to my physical TBR. This is kind of short also, so I'm hoping it's going to be like a good, easy time. It is supposed to be a gripping, atmospheric debut. It's taking place in a small town, and on the property of the town recluse, a beautiful young doctor is found hanging from a tree. And this doctor left the town that they lived in to pursue big dreams. I think they were wanting to be an author for a writing career, and they came back for love. Very dramatic. Not really sure how the doctor comes into play, who the love interests are. The small town is starting to turn on the recluse Elijah, and he's fighting to prove his innocence while trying to keep people close to him. It's supposed to be this novel that's about love, loss, and revenge. I forget what it is, what exactly that stood out to me, but I really like this cover. It feeds into that atmospheric vibe. I know it's a May book, but I feel like I might end up picking this up in the fall time. I do have my book of the month bookmark. Says emotional support bookmark. My June book of the month book is actually very much an anticipated release for me. It's Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. I talked about this in my mid-year book freakout tag. Also, if you haven't seen that, I really loved The Stationery Shop by the same author. Really loved it. It's like a historical fiction, a little bit of romance in there. I was able to get this a little bit early with book of the month, although it's supposed to be out by the time you're seeing this video, I think. This one is going to also be a historical fiction, and it is taking place in 1950s Tehran. 7-year-old Ellie is living a very comfortable life, but when her father dies, she and her family, her mother, are forced to downsize their life and leave their little community and their home. She goes to attend a new school, and she meets this kind little girl, and they become best friends, and she's welcomed in her home. She is experiencing this totally different life than what she has previously known. That happiness, her little bubble, bursts when Ellie and her mother are afforded the opportunity to return to their bourgeois life. Ellie leaves, she attends her new school, she's loving the popularity, she's growing up, she's older, she's going to the best girls' high school in Iran, and her memories of that friend who gave her so much comfort, Homa, are beginning to fade, but suddenly Homa reappears in Ellie's life, and it's supposed to be about these 2 young women and their goals for the future and how their paths will collide again during the political turmoil in Iran at the time. I really loved Marjan Kamali's writing. It's very beautiful, very lyrical. It looks like it's dual POV also. I hope I really love this, and I also just absolutely love this cover. It's also a little bit textured. I think it's really gorgeous. I love it. Also, book of the month did like a little bit of a rebrand change, looking just a little bit different. It's a little bit more adult. I don't know if it's just for this copy, but I like it. Adjusted the height a little bit. I felt I was looking short. But moving right along, I have some sequels that I purchased. I have been watching a few booktube videos of people catching up on series that they have, and I have made a list for myself and gone through what I need to get. Obviously, I have not purchased every single sequel or next book in the series that I am in the middle of, but but I do have 3 of them. The first one is The Empress of Time by Kylie Lee Baker. It is the second book, the last book in the duology of The Keeper of Night. It is a YA fantasy. Our main character, Ren, is half British Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami, and in the first book she wants to explore her Japanese side. She goes to Japan for the first time in search of her mother, answers, and just to explore her Japanese culture. I read this last year over the summer and really liked it. I don't want to talk about it too much since it's a duology. I feel like there's a lot that I might accidentally give away, so hopefully I can get to this soon. Also, I will be saying that for literally every book. The next one is Running Wild by K.A. Tucker. This one has been on my mind for quite some time because this book has been out for a couple years. The first book in this series is The Simple Wild. They take place in Alaska, and this one is, or the first 2 books were about Kala and Jonah. I read this years ago for a YouTube video actually and really liked it. It reminded me of Schitt's Creek a little bit of Alexis and Mutt. This one I thought would be following Kala and Jonah after they get together, but this one is actually following somebody else in the small town in Alaska, and it's about the veterinarian Marie. Her best friend ended up falling for another woman and she's very sad. Then she meets burly bush pilot Tyler Brady. I guess they're volunteering together and she starts to fall for him. I think I might want to reread the first 2 books just to familiarize myself with the characters. Also, it's been a while since I've been in this world in Alaska, so I feel like this might also be a great winter read as well, as it takes place in a colder climate. The last sequel is Tana French's The Hunter, and it came out this year. It was the last signed copy at the bookstore. I got this during a book crawl that I went on with my sister for her birthday. It was during the Brooklyn indie book crawl. Also, it was a really fun, tiring time, but I was really glad to get this. The only thing is though, I had not yet read the first book in the series at the time of purchase, The Searcher. This is a new series that she's written, the Cal Hooper series. There's only 2 books so far. I have really enjoyed Tana French's books previously. You'll know if you see my other video, I didn't really enjoy this. I'm a little bit worried about starting this because I was quite disappointed by this one, but I did buy it. It's purchased already, it's signed. I don't want to have to return a book to an independent bookstore. It looks like actual like a ballpoint pen that she signed in store, which is pretty awesome. I kind of want to give it another try. Hopefully I like it better. I just don't see how this series is going to continue, if there's even going to be a 3rd one or not, but it is going to be following the retired cop Cal Hooper, and the other characters in this are going to be Trey and Lena as well, is all that I know about it, and with it being a 2nd book I also don't want to reveal too much. Hopefully I like it better than the first one because now I know what I'm getting into. It's going to be a little bit slower since it's taking place in a small town and it's about a retired cop who is now living in a foreign country. The next one is a book that I purchased for a booktube book club and have not yet gotten to, but I have read books by this author before, and it's Murder Road by Simone St. James. This is also a new release actually. I feel like I've been doing a better job this year at keeping up with new releases, especially for the authors that I've liked. This author is a paranormal mystery writer. Sundown Motel, I think, was my first introduction to this author a couple years ago that I got through Book of the Month. I saw that in the dedication she dedicated it to murderinos, which I love that little tidbit. SSDGM, if you know, you know. And it was my first introduction to paranormal mystery as well, so I didn't love, I think, the 2nd book that I read by her. I figured for a book club it would be a good time. I know what I'm getting myself into. This one is taking place in 1995 in July, so I feel like I could also read it since it's now July for you but almost July for me. This is about Eddie and April. I think they're road tripping. They're looking for a small little resort town where they're gonna spend their honeymoon, and they find a lone hitchhiker on a deserted road looking for help, and they see blood seeping out of her, like she is not in a good condition. They get her help, and unfortunately she ends up dying at the local hospital, and there have been a string of murders. So unfortunately for April and Eddie, they are the prime suspects in this case. As April and Eddie are trying to clear their name, they are looking into the history of this town. Something a little bit more paranormal might come into play, and they're figuring out all of these dark secrets about this town. Unsure of what the book club thought about it. I feel like that's better that are going into it. Seems like a creepy time, and hopefully I can read it in July. That would be pretty cool. The next book I also purchased during the indie book crawl, Leavers by Lisa Ko. This has been on my list. I've seen it around a lot. I also have a cute little bookmark from McNally Jackson. It has a little lines, like I could use it for notes and stuff like that. One morning, Daming's mom, she is an undocumented Chinese immigrant, and she goes to her job at the nail salon and she never comes back. Deming never found out what happened to her, and he is later adopted. So he's taken from the Bronx, adopted by a well-meaning white family, and taken to a small town upstate, and is given a whole new identity and is now known as Daniel Wilkinson. He's struggling to reconcile with his new life, figuring out like how to deal with his new family while also trying to hold on to some memories of his mother and his childhood with her. It is going to be told in the perspectives of both Daniel and Polly, his mother. It is looking into the life of a single mother, the choices that they make and where they lead them. It sounds really heart-wrenching, and it's also about belonging and how a boy comes into his own after his entire life completely changes due to circumstances that he is unable to control. It looks compact, it's short, but I feel like it's going to pack quite a punch. Look how tiny this text is. Oh my god. I had a whole list during the book crawl of books that I wanted to get in. Second to last bookstore that we visited, I finally found it. It was like the one bookstore that had it, so I felt really great. The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston is my next book. I think this is the first book I purchased this year in terms of like not book of the month or anything, but I went on a little bookish date with my friend. This has been on my list for my TBR for a very, very long time, and I had considered buying this like a year prior, and I was like, you know what? I came to this exact bookstore. It's still there. It's still taunting me, so why not get it? I have read from Ashley Poston before. I have enjoyed books by her before, and I've heard really, really great things about this one. This one is also a little bit magical realism, which I typically do not like, but I'm hoping that because it's by an author that I have enjoyed books by before, I will have a good time with it. Florence is a ghostwriter for a very popular romance author, and when she goes through a breakup, she no longer believes in love and is having a hard time writing. Her new editor, a too handsome mountain of a man, he is a little bit of a hard ass and won't give her an extension for her new book deadline. Florence needs to get that book done, otherwise she has no career, no income essentially, right? But then she receives a phone call saying that she needs to go home to bury her father, and it's been about a decade since she has returned to her town. The magical realism part is going to be a ghost that she sees at the funeral parlor. Unsure where the romance is supposed to be, or if it's supposed to be with her new editor. Not very sure, but I've heard really gorgeous things about this one, so I hope it's one that I enjoy. I have one new Oh no, hello words. I have one memoir, one nonfiction, and it is Your Table is Ready, Tales of a New York City Maitre d' by Michael Checky Azulina. I was browsing at Books Are Magic during the book crawl, saw this, but I had already gotten 2 books at that point, and I knew that that was my limit. But I had a gift card after doing the book crawl, so I went back and I got this one at McNally Jackson. My receipt is in here along with a bookmark. This memoir is about someone in the service industry. As someone who has worked in the service industry, I thought it was really interesting because I've never seen a memoir about someone who has worked in the service industry and still works in the service industry. They've worked at lots of big name restaurants, from being the maitre d' to a server to now an owner to a restaurant in New York called Checky's. It's one that I've heard of for sure. I haven't been to it, but I might like to visit it while I'm reading this book or afterwards, or to see where this book ends up. It says, from the glamorous to the entitled, from royalty to the financially ruined, everyone who wanted to be seen or just to gawk at the hottest restaurants in New York City came to places Michael Checky Azulina helped run. I wanted to see some other insights into different restaurants in New York that he's also worked at and his experiences, and I thought it was really cool to see someone who was a maitre d' that's now an owner. I think that's really awesome. The restaurant just opened last year at McNally Jackson. I had trouble finding this book until someone told me it was downstairs within their bestsellers shelf, and I haven't seen anyone else reading this. I'm really excited about this one. In reading up all of the summaries for these books on my list, I realized that this book is the second book in a series, and I do not own the first one. I have not read the first one, but the first one is the one that's on my to-read list on Goodreads. I just mix the covers up because they look so similar, obviously, because it's a series. This is Blessed Water by Margot Dewey. I think I purchased this during the book crawl. I think I got 3 books. This is just hilarious also, first of all. First book is called Scorched Earth, Scorched Water. Oh, Scorched Grace. Hello. Just do a little bit reading and you'll see it. This is also first intriguing because it's a smoking nun. Hilarious. And also it is published by Gillian Flynn Books, which I didn't know that she had a publishing company, or an imprint at least. This is the bookmark that came with it. I got this at Center for Fiction. And the back of it is so adorable because it looks like one of those old school library borrowing systems. It is about a nun who solves mysteries, which is also funny. It looks like a hilarious time. The second book is about Sister Holiday. She's struggling to stay on the righteous path, and she wants to commit to taking her permanent vows with the Sisters of the Sublime Blood. She joins former Fire Inspector Magnolia Riveau through, I think, her new PI agency, Redemption Detective Agency. They're gonna have a meeting with their very first client, and they end up not showing up because they are found, that priest is found floating in the Mississippi River, and so they're gonna solve this case. And it's about hunting down that murderer, keeping the community safe. I think I will purchase the first one first, just in case that they're like super related. I'll see if I can read this first, but I feel like I'm gonna be left a little bit confused. I might borrow it from the library and then see where it goes, see whether or not this is going to be a continued series. But I guess I do have another book to add on my series I'm in the middle of list, even though I haven't even started it. My next book I sort of bought on a whim, and it's a YA book. YA romance. This is Kto Contigo by Johnny Garzavilla. This is a male-male romance. It is about mariachis. Raphael is at an all-time high because all within 24 hours, Raphael has led his high school's 11th consecutive first place win at the Mariachi Extravaganza Nacional. He also met and made out with, and almost hooked up with, one of the cutest guys he's ever seen. And 8 months later, Rafi is planning for one final win in his senior year, but unfortunately his family ends up moving to San Antonio right before, and it forces him to leave behind his group. At his new school, they do have a mariachi band, but they already have a lead vocalist, and his name is Ray, and he turns out to be the boy that Rafi made out with. I guess this is rivals because Ray is standing between Rafi's chances of winning and being the greatest mariachi Rafi's abuelo always believed him to be. So it's rivals to lovers. Obviously, Rafi cannot quash the feelings that he has, the attraction that he has for Ray. So I think it'll be like really fun because this is like such teenage angst. I think it'd be a really great time. I also just love this cover a lot. I love their uniforms and the flowers. The cover also, I don't know if you can see it at all, but it's textured. It has mariachi on there. I also don't have many male-male romances on my shelf, not any of them YA either. So I'm really happy to have this on my shelf. We're coming down to my last book here. This is going to be like the newest book. It just came out like a week and a half ago. It's Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This is his newest release. He is one of my favorite authors. This is like my most anticipated book of the year that I know of so far because I have not looked into what's coming out the latter half of the year. It's fine. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I just knew that it was coming out and I had to get it. I have struggled with Riley Sager's latest books because he is kind of going into more of a paranormal direction. I feel like that was not known and I wasn't feeling it, but now I know. So hopefully I like this one. One Night in July, which also great, another July book. Ethan is having a sleepover in a tent in his backyard with his best friend and neighbor Billy. They fall asleep in their little small New Jersey town in Hemlock Circle, and in the morning Ethan wakes up alone, and it seems that in the middle of the night someone sliced the tent open with a knife and took Billy, and he is never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan returns to his childhood home and he has many bad dreams. He cannot sleep, he has insomnia, and he starts to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. He's seeing signs of Billy and he can't tell if it's a cruel prank that somebody's playing on him or if possibly Billy has actually returned after people thought he was dead. Ethan begins to investigate what's really going on, and it leads him into the woods that surround his town, Hemlock Circle, where Billy claimed ghosts roamed, where a mysterious institute does clandestine research on a crumbling estate. I'm thinking this is also going to be a little bit paranormal as well, but now that I know know. I'm hoping that I can get into it more. I think that's interesting also because Simone St. James has blurbed this book. This is a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition with special content, so I'll be definitely looking forward to that. I have been avoiding all reviews for this. I am going to be reading this in July for sure because other book clubs are reading this and I want to know other people's thoughts because I know some people were having a hard time with Riley Sager's newest releases as well. I kind of want this to be the one that I take on vacation, but unsure because I have many library books that I need to get to as well. This is going to be everything that I've purchased in the spring, early summer so far. I hope I get to a couple of them, maybe half this year at least. And I hope you enjoyed. If you have read any of these or if any of these are on your TBR, let me know which ones they are or your thoughts. Maybe avoid giving me any thoughts of middle of the night because I really don't want to be disappointed, especially since it's highly anticipated for me. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching and I will see you all next week. Bye!